Have you ever been there? You're part of a team that crafts this brilliant strategy, a plan that feels like it could genuinely change the game, only to watch it just fall apart during execution. It's so common, and it's so frustrating. So, what's the secret? How do you actually bridge that huge gap between a great idea and a great result? Well, let's dive in. I mean, this is the big question, isn't it? It's a pain point that you hear about in boardrooms and team meetings, in pretty much every organization out there. We have the plan, we have the smart people, we've got the resources. So what keeps going wrong? Let's really unpack the reality of what happens when strategy meets the real world. Okay, to kick things off, we have to get right to the heart of the problem. And that is the massive disconnect between the clean, beautiful theory of how strategy should work and the messy, complicated truth of how it actually gets done. And this slide just nails that conflict. On the left, you've got the textbook version. Think of those neat frameworks like TOGAF. It's all a disciplined, top-down flow from the big vision right down to execution. It's logical, it's clean, it makes perfect sense on paper. But then, there's the reality for most of us over on the right. Is this tangled web of cultural habits, siloed departments, and just plain human behaviors that can derail even the best laid plans. And if you dig into the heart of that messy reality, you often find one single fundamental issue. There's no real, shared sense of urgency. In a world that's changing as fast as ours is, standing still isn't just a passive thing. Nope, it's an active, strategic decision. And frankly, it's one of the most dangerous ones a company can make. And look, this isn't some abstract threat way off on the horizon. We're talking about forces that are reshaping entire industries as we speak. From tokenizing assets to brand new AI-driven operating models, the pressure to adapt isn't just huge, it's right here, right now, and it's coming from every direction. The stories of companies like Nokia and Kodak are such perfect cautionary tales. These weren't businesses that were short on talent or money, not at all. They failed because they just couldn't adapt in time. Their incredible success in the past actually became a liability, and it created this fatal sense of complacency. This quote really gets to the core of it. Urgency is not about running around creating panic and chaos. That's not it at all. It's about building a collective, shared understanding that doing nothing is a choice. And in today's world, that choice is very often the most dangerous one you can make. So if a lack of urgency is the backdrop, let's play doctor for a minute. It's time to diagnose the specific organizational symptoms that systematically stop a good strategy from ever becoming reality. Where does this dysfunction actually show up in our day-to-day work? What are those hidden patterns of behavior, those cultural quirks that cause even the most carefully crafted plans to just unravel? Okay, the first big symptom is a quiet one. The strategy, it isn't actually written down or clearly laid out for everyone to see. It just kind of lives in the heads of a few key leaders or maybe some folks who've been there forever. So what happens when those people leave? Well, the knowledge, the context, the entire why behind critical decisions, it just walks right out the door with them. And building on that, without an explicit strategy, you get the classic silo problem. Individual teams get laser-focused on their own goals. And hey, they often do a brilliant job hitting them. But because delivering in the short term gets prioritized over everything else, that bigger, long-term strategic picture gets totally lost. The organization keeps winning all these little battles, but it's slowly, quietly losing the war. And finally, there's a symptom that's a bit more subtle, but it's just as corrosive. In really hierarchical companies, feedback going up the chain gets polished and filtered at every single step. People become way more concerned with what feels politically safe to say than what is strategically the right thing to do. So you end up with everyone looking like they're aligned, but they're not aligned on the actual outcomes. This table does a fantastic job of pulling it all together, showing how these problems connect across the entire business. You look at process and you see short-term tactical fixes winning out all the time. You look at culture and you see change fatigue, risk aversion setting in. And under information, all the critical context is just lost in a sea of slide decks and spreadsheets that, let's be honest, nobody really trusts. It's a truly systemic problem.
All right, so we've diagnosed the dysfunction. Enough about the problem, right? Let's shift our focus to the solution. This is about the prescription, a clear path toward building the kind of clarity and coherence that any strategy needs to actually have a fighting chance.
So what's this path look like?
First, you have to make the strategy explicit. I mean, write it down and anchor it in a really clear why that everyone can get behind. Second, center everything, and I mean everything, on the customer journey. That becomes your shared reference point that just cuts right through the silos. Third, you got to evolve governance from something that controls and slows things down to something that actually enables and accelerates good decisions. And finally, you have to foster clear thinking by choosing structured, written narratives over 1,000 fragmented slide decks.
And tying this all together is our final and maybe most crucial idea. To really make this all work, we need to redefine the role of the enterprise architect and really anyone in a strategic role. This is about so much more than just enforcing a bunch of frameworks.
And this, right here, for me, this is the core takeaway. The real purpose of architecture isn't about being the rules police. It's a deeply creative act. It's about being the force that creates clarity out of all the complexity, that ensures continuity when everything around you is changing, and that builds real coherence across the entire organization for the long haul.
Because here's the thing, architecture can't succeed in a vacuum. It absolutely thrives on a healthy culture. When an organization has a genuinely shared purpose, and when its strategic thinking is explicit and crystal clear for everyone to see, that's the moment the architect's role becomes not just useful, but completely and totally indispensable.
So I'll leave you with a final question to think about for your own organization. In a world that is moving faster every day, a world that will not wait for you to figure things out, is achieving this level of strategic clarity really optional anymore?